Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Perspectives and Focus. James Hicks here for another year. Haven't seen you since, what was it, 2021. We are back. We are kicking off the new year. And let me tell you something. The woman that I got behind the scene right now, if you're not sitting down already, you need to sit down and get yourself a pen and a paper out because we're going to have a phenomenal conversation tonight. The tagline on her Twitter profile says, passionate about helping you improve your health, emotions, finance, and relationships. That right there really sums up perfectly the guest I have today. Selena Dorsey has been successful in business and entrepreneurship since day one when she started Empowered Hypnosis Wellness Centers back in 2008. In 2018, she launched her HypnoBiz brand, which is focused on teaching industry leaders how to build the business side of their own practices. Moving into 2020, Selena repositioned that business to serve people globally by focusing on the power of virtual summits. Now, Selena is successfully teaching other entrepreneurs how to expand their impact and how to grow their business through virtual summits. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us go ahead and get started. Let me welcome Selena Dorsey. How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me today. It's my pleasure being here with you and your community.
Thank you very much for taking the time. Look, we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to go and get focused, but I want folks to get the behind the scenes from you about you. I can do the elevator pitch myself, but no one can tell their own story better. So, Selena, if you don't mind just telling the folks who you are.
I'm Selena D. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, virtual summit expert, and international speaker. And I like to share my background of how I got started in my business. I actually started really young. At 21 years old was my first entrepreneurial journey where I created the Selena's Beauty Supply. So that was back when I was 21. So I always knew that I wanted to become an entrepreneur and kind of shape my own destiny and be in charge of my life versus working for someone or going into corporate and clocking in and all those things. So fast forward to 2007, one of my loved ones had passed away suddenly. And as you can imagine, with whenever there's a death in the family, there are the five stages of grief, right? Anger, sadness, denial, depression. Well, I was in severe depression. It was, my only brother, it was my older brother. So it was a very traumatic experience for me. And I remember being like really depressed. And a friend of mine had just saw a hypnotist to stop smoking. And she had smoked for like 15 years. And after one session, she just totally quit. So she said, you know what? Maybe this hypnotherapist can help you to get out of this funk, to get out of this sadness. It works for me for smoking. Try it out. And that's what I did. I said, okay, well, let me try it. I'm open minded. I need to try anything to get out of this mental and emotional state. And I remember that first session, it was like a light bulb went off. She helped me to reframe the passing, the death, as to not so much a sad occasion, but a celebration of my brother and his life, and just kind of focus on those memories. So it was like a reframe and redirect in my mind. So I said, wow, this helped me so much. I need to learn this to help other people. And that's when my business was born, HypnoBiz. I'm Empower Hypnosis Wellness Centers, I'm sorry, in 2008. So I did that for about 10 years. We serviced over 3,000 clients in my hometown of New York City. At one time, I had five practitioners working for me. We had two offices. And then I just felt called to switch gears and instead service the industry. So the life coaches, the wellness practitioners, other hypnotherapists, health coaches, and teach them the business side of their practice, what I learned, how I was able to create a successful and thriving practice. I felt led to teach all these other practitioners as well. So in 2018, I created the HypnoBiz Global Summits Conferences. It started in New York City, my hometown, and then we ventured off into Toronto, Canada. So we had a conference in Canada, Australia, HypnoBiz Australia, and then we were scheduled to do HypnoBiz Europe in Amsterdam. And but we all know what happened in 2020, so things changed.
Wow. Look, listen, that's a lot to unpack right there. And first and foremost, before we even continue going on, I want to give my condolences to you on the loss of your family member there. But it's interesting how something traumatic like that sparked this movement in you, right? Spark kind of this initiative to say, I need to get out. I need to not only help myself, I need to help others as well. Uh, let's talk a little bit about that, right? Talk a little bit about that drive to be helpful, to build
Mhm.
community, to be an entrepreneur. I've got a lot of folks that are in the comments here, so appreciate you guys coming in. And I'm seeing the names here. A number of these folks are also entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and content creators. So these types of conversations that we're going to have tonight is really going to resonate with them. So talk a little bit about again that drive to be an entrepreneur, how it
Mhm.
came out of then that experience, and what is still driving you today, right? Ever since 2008, 2007, 2006, and things of that nature.
I think if when you really look at the stories of, entrepreneurs, usually it's some type of transformation that happens in their lives where they get like an awakening or like an aha moment. And when you are transformed by an experience in your life, I feel like you naturally want to help other people. You naturally want to share with other people like, look, this worked for me, maybe you want to try it, like especially if, again, if it's life transforming. So that's what it was for me as far as, hypnotherapy and things like that. So I said, okay, now I want to help other people and of course create a business out of it as
Mm,
well, because I have to take care of myself. I'm an adult. I wasn't a nonprofit venture. So
right.
I said I can help other people and also help myself at the same time, and that's why I decided to create a business out of it.
Incredible, incredible, folks. This is Selena Dorsey. If you don't know, Google her. But this is my new best friend, and I'm loving the conversation. I'm loving the fact of what we talked about earlier as well, even before we went online. But let's dive a little bit into something that you mentioned about kind of shifts in the industry since 2008 and since you really started, and especially kind of those shifts since the world stood still last year, right? Within your industry and what it is that you do, what you bring to the marketplace, virtual summits, and you're normally getting in front of people. You're normally doing face to face summits probably, but now again the world has stopped and we're all zooming, ecamming, StreamYard, whatever the case would be. Talk to us a little bit about how that has affected you and your business.
Yes, and I'd like to tell you in the audience the story of that. So, as I mentioned, I started the HypnoBiz, brand of conferences in 2018. So in 2020, we were opening up in Australia. So if you've ever been to Australia, you know it's a really long flight. It's like 24 hours from New York. It's plane the plane. So my conference was scheduled to start from March 13th to the 18th in Australia. We all know what happened in March of 2020, right? So I flew all the way to Australia. I just got there. I was scheduled to stay there a few weeks because it's a really long flight. So you want to make it count. And I got an urgent message on March 14th from my travel agent saying, Selena, this coronavirus is heating up around the world.
Oh,
I'm getting notice that they're going to close the US borders, and I need you to get on the first flight back to New York.
oh
I'm
wow.
booking it for you to get out of there before you get stuck in Australia.
Wait a minute, you barely even got off the tarmac. Okay, that's okay. Talk to us a little bit about that, right? Because again, you've done all the planning, all of the administrative piece, probably paid a lot of upfront costs as
Yes.
well. But again, how'd you? What were the next steps on that?
So after I cried and I sobbed, I was like, oh God, no. I reached out to my partner because I did have a partner as well in Australia. And I said, look, I need to leave. I need you to continue on with this conference. The US borders, they're going to close. I need to get back. And she literally said it was like being left at the altar when you're going to get
Wow,
married. Like it was
wow,
that traumatic because when you're planning an in person event, it takes about a year to plan.
yeah,
So by the time you get the venue, the food, you book the room blocks, like there's a lot of planning. So I thought about all of the attendees, the volunteers, like everything that went into it. It was just so traumatic. So fast forward, I said, okay, Selena, now that you got it out the way, you cried, get into action. You're a New Yorker, figure it out, just make it happen and
yeah.
stop feeling sorry for yourself. So I flew back to New York and I got together with my team and I said, look, I don't know what's going on with this COVID stuff. it's airborne. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Why don't we shift our business completely virtual and create a virtual summit? And
Mm.
that's how I started getting into the virtual summits. It was out of necessity.
Talk about that interests me right there, and I'm surprised. I see a couple of folks in the comments that I know are New York and fans, and I'm surprised I'm not getting any Yankees or no Mets or not or nothing like that. But yeah, way to pivot, right? Along with this statement right here, and the fact that you didn't sit in that, right? Because it was out of your control. Talk to us a little bit about again, realizing that it was out of your control, and you either were going to move forward, you were going to stop, or you were going to go backwards. You decided to move forward, and you decided to pivot your business. That's a huge shift, right? That's a huge mindset as well, right? You've expended so much emotional energy. I'm not. Hopefully, I'm not gonna make nobody cry here tonight. Reliving and rehash now, but these are teaching moments. Let's talk about it. See, hold on, before we keep going. There it is, in NYC in the house. I was waiting for you, Doctor Worthy, man. Come on. Uh, Talk to us a little bit about that whole mental shift of going from you got boots on the ground. You are in Australia again, a double digit flight time to and fro. And then you decided to go virtual and talk about how that has gone since then, right? Because I don't think you're going to turn back. From what I know of you already, I think virtual. I think you got something right here.
Yeah, and what always comes to mind is that sometimes you can't control what happens, out there in the world, but you can control how you respond,
Yeah.
right? You have the power to control how you respond. So once you get the initial, sadness out, and it's okay to cry for like 10 minutes. We're human, but you always want to, approach it like, okay, what can I do now? How can I help myself, right?
Mm,
How can I turn this around? Because if you go the other way, it's like it's not going to work out well for you. So you always want to be able to pick yourself up and say, okay, what can I do now? What can I do instead? And we started doing virtual, and since then, so we did our first virtual summit in June of 2020, and since that time, I've done over 12 consecutive 5 and 6 figure summits back to back. And now I teach other people how to create virtual summits in their business, because what a lot of people have experienced since the pandemic, their business has suffered. Their business has gone down, especially if you were face to face,
mm,
in person business. If you were a hairdresser, if you were a therapist, anything that required face to face. Remember, the country was shut down for like a long time.
yeah.
So, what people came to me and they said, "Wow, you're doing all these virtual summits. You're like crushing it. You have thousands of people. You have, 25,000 new people on your email list. How can this now serve my business?" And that's how I started teaching other people to do it. And I really believe that virtual summits are here to stay now with the Omicron variant and now
Hmm.
the Florona in California and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like this is the safest way to educate your community, share your knowledge, share your expertise. And people are getting accustomed to learning
Yeah.
online. The technology is really simple and easy now, and people are accustomed to it, and people want to stay safe. They want to stay safe.
It's a, it's interesting perspective, right? And I'm seeing in the comments again, it's, Mr. Worthy is talking about he's planning a sermon right now, and then other folks are saying they definitely agree. It, the fact that you say it's safe, it's the way to go. I think another key aspect of going virtual is it breaks down geographical barriers. You could really be reaching folks in Asia Pacific, in Europe, in the United States, wherever you're sitting in the comfort of your home office and you've got this wide audience who is engaged, who is interacting. They may not be always paying attention on camera or whatever the case may be, but you've reached that audience and they've paid for that summit. I want you to repeat for folks like me in the back of the room how many of these summits that you've had over the past few months or so. You gave us a figure. Talk to us about that one more time.
Yes. So, since June of 2020, I've done over a dozen virtual 5 and 6 figure virtual summits. And now I teach other people as well. And you said something great about, you breaking down the borders, right? So when I had my conference in Australia, not everybody could go to Australia. First of all, you got to get a visa. It's really
Mm-hmm.
far.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive. You maybe can't take the time away from your kids or your family. So the majority of the attendees were Australians and, New Zealander people, right? It wasn't of that many Americans or Canadians because it's really far. Now with our virtual summits, we're actually in the midst of one of our virtual summits, which is the Empower Women in Business Summit. If you just look at the roster of speakers, we have people from Australia, New Zealand, Bahamas, Ghana, Africa, Mozambique. We have people from all over the world and they can stay home. They don't have to worry about the airplane. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to worry about the rent a car. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it's much more affordable for people and it's much more accessible for people. Learning online is the new way that I think is here to stay.
You brought it up. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the screen. I was gonna save it for a little bit later. This is the Empowered Women Summit that is happening literally right now, ladies and gentlemen. She's got one screen going right now that's probably doing her keynote, and she's got one screen where she's paying attention and talking to us. So bless you for doing that. But talk to us a little bit about this. I love the key points here: the training, the self care, community, inspiration. Talk to us a little bit about this. You mentioned about some of the folks that are attending, but
Yes.
and wait a minute again. So it's going on right now. Is it too late for folks to sign up? Right. Let me get
No,
some
you
more.
can definitely
Okay.
sign up. It's going from the 10th to the 14th. It's a free event, so you can sign up for free. You can watch the presentations for 24 hours. If you like to have them longer, then you can sign up for a premium pass, and that gives you lifetime access to the presentations. And we have over 100 presenters. So this is actually the largest Women in Business Summit in history, and I'm really, really proud of it.
I love it. I love it. I mean, again, you've got folks from all over the country. Again, like you say, Australia there, the UK. I see California in there. Okay, at least we representing. I see Germany's in there. Oh,
Yes.
get us in there too. Give us left coast folks some credit. We can do some things. No. I'm loving this, and this brings up an interesting question that I wanted to ask you as well, right? And uh, diversity and inclusion, right? I think this is phenomenal that it's women focused. I think it's phenomenal that a black woman is behind this entire aspect and this whole venture. Do you see enough of us, and then do you see enough women really taking the initiative to move that needle and to progress and be entrepreneurs and to be the one sitting at the head of that conference table? I mean, again, I'm just wondering, is there enough diversity, inclusion, and representation at these conferences, and then from a business perspective, from what you're seeing?
I am so happy that you asked this question because it is so important that you ask this question. Part of the reason why I created the HypnoBiz Summit and now I'm doing the virtual summits is because I would go to industry summits and no one that was, calling the shots in the executive position looked
Yeah,
like me, whether it was a woman, whether it was a woman of color. And I said, you know what? I'm going to change this because you can't wait for people to give you a seat at the table. Like Tyler Perry said, it's like sometimes you have to just create your own table. And it's like, okay, I'll just create my own lane and my own table and I'll, invite my tribe and it'll all work out just fine. And the conferences were born out of that. I would attend all the conferences, and I'm sure you've been to a lot of conferences
yeah,
where it's not a lot of people that look like us. You're like,
exactly.
okay, I guess I have to create it myself, and that's just fine. So even in the virtual summit space, right? I'm sure people have either attended a virtual summit this year or seen a virtual summit, right? Tony Robbins boasted he had 1 million people in his summit, right? So summits are the thing, but you don't see that many women and definitely women of color. So
Yeah,
with the Empower Women Summit and all the summits that I do, you look at that summit, there's women from all backgrounds, Black women, Hispanic women, Asian women. I mean, it's so important because you want people to feel like they're welcome. They're
Yes.
welcomed in your space. And diversity is a great thing. You want to collaborate with people with different backgrounds, different languages, different, customs and cultures. That's what makes it a rich melting pot. And being from New York, that's what I see all the time. So this is normal for me. So when I would go to spaces where there were no diversity, I'm like, what planet am I on? This is
Yeah. What's
not what I'm
wrong?
used to.
I love that. And again, if you're, I like Steve's comment there, create your own table, right? And we have to do that. We have to be in the room. We have to be at the front of that table. And if
Mhm.
we're not, again, we build our own. And I love the fact that you are doing this and it's incredibly successful. Uh, a question out of left field here, though. Let me ask you this: who's right and who's probably not the target audience, right? For some of the initiatives that you talk about, we want to bring everyone along, right? We want to help as many people as we can. We want to do the good work. But sometimes some folks just can't get out of their own way, or whatever the case may be. I don't want to answer the question for you, but are there folks who may not be the right focus or the right personality type for engaging in business and maybe even engaging in some of these conferences and summits that you're doing? And I don't know if it is, but I'm just asking that particular question.
Well, we do all personal development, conferences, whether
Yeah.
that's, personally, professionally, where you want to enhance your life with some sort of skill, some new knowledge, some new education from networking with other people that are more advanced in an area than you. So if you're not interested in bettering yourself, if you're not interested in education, if you're not interested in, advancing your station in life, then definitely my conferences are not for you.
That's literally, it was a loaded question. That's what I wanted to hear you say, right? I mean, if you are happy sitting in the back of the room and you don't want to move forward, and if you don't want to progress and do good things, okay. We you don't have to come to the party. We gonna move forward anyway. So I really, again, it was a blatantly honest question and was kind of a loaded question. I wanted to hear you say that, right? That if you're not motivated yourself, because I feel I can't motivate you to do something. If you're not already internally
Mhm.
motivated to progress and do positive and do good things, then God bless you. Continue to do what you do, and but we gonna see you down the road. Um, but that's the interesting thing. Talk to us a little bit about what's next, because again, I know, and I know you're literally in the midst of this Empowered Women's Summit right now, but I got a feeling you're not sitting on your hands. There's something in the hopper that's coming up literally after this, and I want folks to understand that Selena Dorsey is someone who they need to either be following on social media or they need to be following in terms of her activity. So, what you got going on next?
Yes, well, I normally do a summit a month because I love all things summits. I love the ease of it. I love how, again, we have people from all around the world, whether it's our speakers, attendees. So we are actually planning our next summit that's going to be in February. It's going to be all about podcasting, and I hope to have you at the summit as well as a speaker because we would absolutely love to have you. So if you are someone that has a message or a course or you want to just share your knowledge with the world in a podcast form, then this will be the summit for you.
Well, you know what? I am gonna make sure that I'm free, and I'm humbled and honored to be even asked to be in the room. I'll bring you the water and the Doritos or whatever. I'll come clean up the tables, but then that'll be my role, and just to be heckling in the back. But Selena, I really wanted to be cognizant of your time because again, I know that you're in the midst of what you're doing right now, and I didn't want to take a lot of your time because I know again again, you probably literally do have another screen going right now with everything that's happening at the Empowered Women, and then you're looking at us. But I wanted folks to hear your story. I wanted folks to see you, right? To see who is doing these activities and doing these efforts. I will make sure to put the Empowered Women Summon.net conference in the description for this video and in all the show notes so folks can sign up and attend within the next couple of days. Um, Outside of that, where can folks catch you, I guess, like on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and things of that nature? Do you have any particular locations that you
Mhm.
particularly resonate with?
Yeah, I play a lot on Instagram and Facebook, so you can find me at Selena D official.
Well, hold on. Let me get that. Let me write that down to make sure I have that as well. Awesome, awesome. Selena, thank you very much again for your time. I want to again. I keep hashing on this. Want to be cognizant of your time because I know that you're busy. But join the biggest women in business event on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. That's happening right now at the Empowered Women Empower Summit. Empowered Women Empower Women, the summit that's happening right now virtually. And Selena Dorsey is the woman behind the scenes. She is the Wizard of Oz behind the screen, pulling all the cords. So thank you for your time. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
efforts. Thank you for what you do. And I appreciate you. And I know everyone who's attending and taking part in what you provide, they appreciate you as well.
Thank you so much. My pleasure being here.
Be well.